India government has merged 29 old labor laws into 4 simple laws. This is the biggest historic overhaul of the law since independence of India. New 4 labor codes are aimed at ensuring compliance, streamlining enforcement, and modernizing outdated laws. These will help ensuring better wages, wider social security coverage, and improved health-related protections for workers across sectors. The 4 comprehensive labor codes, namely the Code on Wages, 2019, the Industrial Relations Code, 2020, the Code on Social Security, 2020, and the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, 2020. 1. The Universal Minimum Wages establishes a statutory right to minimum wages for all employees across both organized and unorganized sectors. This also introduces a floor wage provision that will be set up the government based on minimum living standards, with region-wise variation. The Gender Equality in Employment will not discriminate on the basis of gender, including transgender identity, in recruitment, wages, and employment conditions for similar work. The universal coverage for wage payment provisions, ensuring timely payment and preventing unauthorized deductions, will apply to all employees, irrespective of wage limits. The responsibility for wage payment to employers, including companies, firms, or associations, will pay wages to employees employed by them. Failure to do so makes the proprietor entity liable for unpaid wages. The Industrial Relations Code 2020 ensures the following. 1. Fixed-term employment. 2. Women's representation ensures proportional. 3. Layoff provisions. 4. Work-from-home provisions. Fixed-term employment, FTE, ensures the eligibility of gratuity has been reduced to 1 year from 5 years earlier for direct, time-bound contracts with full parity in wages and benefits. Women's representation ensures proportional representation of women in grievance committees for gender-sensitive redressal. Layoff provision ensures the threshold raised from 100 to 300 employees, easing compliance and enabling flexible workforce management. Work-from-home provision is permitted in service sectors by mutual consent, improving flexibility. The Code on Social Security 2020 extends Social Security to all workers, including unorganized gig and platform workers covering life, health, maternity, and provident fund benefits, while introducing digital systems and facilitator-based compliance for greater efficiency. Expanded employees' state insurance coverage now applies pan-India, eliminating the criteria of notified areas. Establishments with fewer than 10 employees may voluntarily opt in with mutual consent of employers and employees. Coverage would be mandated for hazardous occupation and extended to plantation workers. Inclusion of gig and platform workers definitions are included: aggregator, gig worker, and platform worker to enable Social Security coverage. Aggregators to contribute 1 to 2% of annual turnover. Expanded definition of dependents extended to maternal grandparents, and in case of female employees, it also includes dependent parents-in-law, broadening family benefit access. Commuting accidents covered during travel between home and workplace are now deemed employment-related, qualifying for compensation. Occupational safety, health, and working conditions. Code 2020 ensures following. 1. Unified registration. 2. Extension to hazardous work. 3. Simplified compliance. 4. Women's employment. 5. National database for unorganized workers. 6. Contract labor welfare and wages. 7. Working hours and overtime. Unified registration is uniform threshold of 10 employees is set for electronic registration. 1 registration for an establishment has been envisaged in place of 6 registrations in the Acts. This will create a centralized database and promote ease of doing business. In extension to hazardous work, the government can extend the code's provisions to any establishment, even with 1 employee, engaged in hazardous or life-threatening occupations. In simplified compliance, introduces 1 license, 1 registration, 1 return framework for the establishments, reducing redundancy and compliance burden. In women's employment, women can work in all types of establishments and during night hours before 6 a.m., beyond 7 p.m. with consent and safety measures, fostering equality and inclusion. In National Database for Unorganized Workers, a national database to be developed for unorganized workers, including migrants, to help migrant workers get jobs, map their skills, and provide other social security benefits. In contract labor welfare and wages, the principal employers to provide welfare facilities like health and safety measures to contract workers. If the contractor fails to pay wages, the principal employer has to pay unpaid wages to the contract labor. In working hours and overtime, normal working hours capped at 8 hours per day and 48 hours per week. Overtime allowed only with worker consent and paid at twice the regular rate,